What is up, Fruitful Nation? We know that the economy is not doing well. The real estate market's not doing well. The job market's not doing well. Unemployment rates are going up. People are struggling. Food is more expensive than ever before. Everybody is waiting for rate cuts in almost every G7 country, whether it's Canada, Germany, France, Australia, the US. Yes, the US numbers look great. The economy looks like it's doing well. Consumer spending is still up. All of the nerdy economic details we always talk about on this channel. But what's really going on? If you talk to people on Main Street, they have no money. They feel like they have less money. They're working more jobs. They have a part-time job after they work their full-time job. It's not looking good. But in this interview, we're going to bust down on PBD. We're going to get to the real numbers and what's going on with the banks and what JP Morgan just said about what they think is going to happen for rate cuts. And it ain't looking good, that's for sure.
So we look at the economy and, they desperately need a couple rate cuts before the election. They need it because that's not going to be good. If they don't get it in September, this election could be done just because the rates don't go down in the month of September and nothing happens till maybe in November, which is after the election, right? So if you look at right now.
Yeah, so true. So if you guys are putting your political hat on and thinking like a politician, Joe Biden, he definitely wants rate cuts to happen before that election because it's going to stimulate the sentiment. It'll stimulate the economy, but not fast enough. Even if they cut in September, you're not going to actually see some actual stimulus go through the economy by November. But the sentiment changes like this, and consumer sentiment right now is very low. People can't afford things. Like I said, everything's more expensive. Your rent is more expensive. Buying a home, almost impossible with interest rates. You're lucky if you have a home. And that's the great thing about America is that you have a locked-in 30-year mortgage, not like these other countries like Canada, where I'm from, where your mortgage changes over every 5 years. And a lot of people are renewing a mortgage at a much higher interest rate in this crazy time. But if you already own a home in America, you're good. However, if you're a millennial, a Gen Z trying to buy a home, you're not a fan of Joe Biden right now. That is for sure.
Fed's Waller says rate cuts will have to wait until several more months of good inflation data. Okay, so this report comes in yesterday. In the balance of a significant weakening in the labor market, I need to see several more months of good inflation data before I would be comfortable supporting an easing in the stance of monetary policy, Waller said in a speech. Waller said in the April Consumer Price Index data, which showed a slight cooling off inflation, was a welcome relief and a sign that inflation is not accelerating. As a result, the Fed probably will not need to raise rates. Central bankers should never say never, but the data suggests that inflation isn't accelerating, and I believe the further increases in the policy rate are probably unnecessary. And Tom, you read something this morning from Solomon talking about rate cuts, because that's Goldman Sachs.
Now, guys, this is something we always talk about, is if you look at the real data, the live data, okay, not the way the government packages their data, because don't forget, shelter, which is the most contributing factor to high inflation, makes up 60% of the CPI in America. And one of the larger components of that is called owner's equivalent rent. And how do they calculate that? It's literally like a poll. They call sellers around the country over the phone and they ask them if your house was for sale. I know it's not for sale, or sorry, for rent right now. If it was for rent and it was a rental, how much do you think you could get for rent on this property? Oh, I don't know. I see places around here going for $2,000. My neighbor rented one for $1,800. He told me at the last family dinner, whatever, like playing telephone game, everything changes. And then the government, the polling goes, okay, $1,800 for this house in Cleveland. Okay, this person said $3,000 a month in San Jose, California. What are you talking about? Rather than looking at live data, it's easy. Especially in America, the data is everywhere. Freedom of Information Act is crazy. You can just pull data from Redfin, from Zillow, from Remax. I'm sure they could ask these companies to give them real-time data, what's going on in their real estate boards, and it would give you an accurate picture of live data, what's actually going on with rents, what's actually going on with for sale prices. But no, they look at all these lagging indicators and this. Like, I'm not making this up. This is how they get the information for owner's equivalent rent. It's a fucking phone call and asking, what do you think your house would rent for? They're not real estate professionals. Some dude living in fucking Idaho, he doesn't know. Some plumber, he doesn't know what the real estate market is. I think my house could rent for $3,000. I think. What are you talking about? And that's how they gather the information. It's absolutely insane. But it's skewing the data. If you look at real live data, like we always talk about, inflation is much lower in the real estate component, much higher in the food, milk, eggs, meat, I get it. They're lying to you about that, about how the prices are coming down. But it doesn't matter because real estate makes up an enormous amount of the economy and the amount of CPI. So while eggs and meat are not going down as fast as they, as we want them to, it doesn't have to. Real estate makes up way more of the economy and way more of the CPI. When that starts coming down, and it will, it already is, just got to wait for the lag data to come in, you're going to see CPI drop like a rock. They're going to call themselves geniuses. But again, I know it's tough out there. I know inflation is high. On this channel, we talk about being an entrepreneur, being a real estate investor, making our wealth so that we don't care about fucking CPI and the price of eggs. I want you to make more money so you don't have to worry about that. But we got to go with the government data. We got to act on how and what they're talking about, right? So it's just how it is.
And CEO of Goldman Sachs, he came out and said, look, in April, remember April's not that long ago. In April, as recently as April, we institutionally, Goldman, believed there was going to be 2 rate cuts. And we were kind of handicapping them at the September meeting and then a later meeting. Because remember, they don't do it anytime they want. They do it when they meet, which is every so many weeks. So he comes out and he says that, and he points to weakness in consumer spending. And that came on the heels of what Waller was talking about. He needs to see more good inflation data. Well, the good inflation data is actually bad market data. Let me explain. Target and Walmart come out and says, hey, we're going to be reducing prices because we see the consumer is spending less, so we got to reduce prices.
Big one, guys. Big one.
And that was after Walmart had a great quarter and said part of their great quarter was the fact that fast food was having it so bad. McDonald's had a bad quarter, which was actually good for me because I had people coming in buying meals ready to eat out of Walmart. So that was kind of a good news, bad news. Good news if you own Walmart. Bad news if you're looking at fast food as a category. And
see, we're seeing this trend where people are now going to shop at Walmart because life's getting more expensive. So Walmart's making more money. Their earnings reports are doing well because instead of shopping at, I don't know, Louis Vuitton and Abercrombie Fitch, whatever, now they're shopping at Target, Walmart, cheaper. People are scaling back their consumer spending. So again, I always talk about this. You really want to pay attention to the earnings reports that come out on stocks like Costco, Walmart, McDonald's, because it's a leading indicator of what's likely coming in the CPI reports, in the economic data months and months from now, because we know the economic data is lagged. It's just the way they do it. They're looking at old data and then they're making decisions today based on old data. It's terrible. But if you look at the live earning reports, it shows a lot. If we see a lot of stocks doing bad, like Abercrombie Fitch, I don't know why I keep picking on this company, but more expensive retailers, if their stocks are doing bad, Costco and Walmart's doing good, you see the money shifting to cheaper items. That's a leading indicator. We got to pay attention to that stuff.
If you're looking at, is the consumer really pinched? And the answer to all that was yes. Then Target comes out and says, listen, brace yourselves. We had a rough quarter, and we think it's going to be a rough quarter next time, and we're actually slashing prices. Holy crap. Now they're saying, you might as well just say, we're slashing profits for the second quarter, which is what they said. So the market attacked the Target stock. Now you've got Waller from the Fed, and you've got Solomon saying, hang on, folks, it's not really deflation
Rob,
here.
is there actually a video of Solomon saying something? Because with the article you went to, I saw a video there with his face at the top. So what? Can you play this clip to see if he's saying so? Oh, it's a long clip. Got it. Yeah, we don't have time to watch the whole thing. But so
he's saying we shouldn't expect cuts because this inflation data will be good, but there's so many other things going on in the economy around the pinched consumer. He says I don't see the rate cuts coming down because we actually in the midst of this still have inflation risk, and inflation is hanging at 3.7.
For Solomon to say that, Dan, what do you think about this? What do you think about what Solomon is saying?
Well, he's not wrong. I mean, if you look at the PPI, what the producers are paying for basically wholesale to get stuff in the door, that hasn't ebbed at all. So eventually those costs are going to have to be passed on to consumers. I mean, where do corporations get their money? Consumers. I mean, unless you're not, if you don't have billions in government contracts. But here's the issue politically, why this is such a big deal. And, let's be fair here. Republicans have pushed for loose Fed policy, too. I mean, it's not just Democrats because they like it. I mean, obviously, if money...
For sure.
Yes. Everything has a cost, right?
Yes.
The bagel cost. What's the cost of money? The interest rate. Money has a cost, too. So you want money to be cheaper. You want it flowing through the economy.
And it's great in an election year to say, I did it.
It's fantastic. And then look, you'll get, home... They want the mortgage. I mean, obviously, the home industry is very interest rate sensitive. But here's the issue Biden's going to have for the election. One, folks, it's too late. It doesn't, and I've warned everyone, even if Trump wins, this is not going to turn around overnight. a lot of this money hasn't even been spent yet. The Inflation Production Act, which it's obviously, I get it, but I call it that because it did. But here's the thing about inflation, and this is where I think Biden and his team are constantly gaslighting people. You guys are very smart on the economic front. All they're talking about coming down is the rate of change, not the price. Those are not the same thing.
Correct.
Prices have not come down at all. So let's just be clear, right? You get a price, whatever. This phone costs $100. It doesn't matter. Inflation, say, hits 10%. So say it hits $110. Oh, and then it's 3%. Okay, so it's 111.3. The price never came down from 100. Yep. So Biden's running on this whole thing like inflation's coming down. And again, people out there who aren't economists, they're not stupid, but they're not economists. They're like, yeah, but I'm still paying $300 for groceries. Like, what are you talking about? And
yeah, so this is a really important thing to understand is deflation and disinflation. Disinflation is what we're having right now, which is the rate of things going up is slowing down. But we're not getting deflation yet of prices actually coming down, and we probably won't, just because when those rate cuts start coming, and they will, and they're coming sooner than you think, most likely, it's going to stimulate the economy. It's going to stimulate sentiment. Businesses are going to start borrowing money. They're going to start hiring more people. People are going to go out buying more real estate. Builders are going to start building more houses. And again, the real estate industry is gigantic. It's a huge part of the economy for the U.S. and places like Canada, even more in Canada. Real estate is everything. So while all this stuff they're saying is true, it doesn't necessarily matter, because when the lag data from real estate of rents going down, which we know rents and live data is going down, you're starting to see it now, talked about on the news and all the news articles, rents are coming down. That's for sure. Prices are coming down in real estate. Like, where have you been the past year and a half? Prices are coming down. Less people are buying real estate. But that data, for some reason, still hasn't hit the CPI. The last reports that came out in Canada and America, for example, still showed real estate going up for sale, still going up in prices. What? Where have you been? Like, I'm in the industry. I'm a realtor. I'm a real estate investor. We're buying about 4 to 6 properties every single month. I'm deep into real estate. I can tell you, prices have come down about 15, 20% in most of America. Where's that data? It's going to hit soon. And that's what's going to be the last thing to drive the decision for Jerome Powell to start finally lowering rates, and every other G7 country start lowering rates. The ECB, European Central Bank, already came out and said like 98% they're cutting rates in June, in a couple of weeks. Canada, right on the edge. It might not. It's a 50-50 chance according to all the polls and all the data that Bank Canada's 50-50 chance to cut rates in June, 89% chance cutting in July. If it's not June, it's July. Who fucking cares at this point? They're cutting rates. The U.S. probably September, October, November. It doesn't matter. That's 4 or 5 months away. Who cares? It's already starting to change the sentiment. But when it officially happens, it'll start also lowering prices. Why? Mortgage payments will come down when they start lowering rates. So that will skew the inflation data, the CPI, eventually. All I'm saying is when they start to cut rates, it's going to lower. We're going to have deflation for sure in real estate, and that's all we need. Because real estate makes up 60% of the CPI. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Is Jerome Powell cutting rates in September, October? Is he cutting at all this year? Is JP Morgan right that 2 rate cuts are coming this year, possibly more? Let me know in the comments below. I respond to every comment. I'll see you in the next video.